Okay, everybody. I am excited. I was doing the video yesterday, and I was getting weirded out at the words I was saying. I was like, "What's going on here?" But then I read the text, and I figured out why I was being weirded out because if you compare this text to the Descent of Inanna, you could compare. You could say that the actions of Marduk are exactly the same as the actions of Inanna, right? And you need to go into that video to get into this conversation because there's basically in the Descent of Inanna two different approaches to toxic people, and this approach by Marduk and Inanna is actually being condemned by the writer of the Descent of Inanna, right? So here we have the writer of this Enuma Elish is in disagreement with the writer of the Descent of Inanna, right? So, and this is going to get into Hermes Trismegistus and Moses as well, because I mean, I would say that ultimately these men are in agreement about one thing. And the writer of the Descent of Inanna would agree that Marduk is a champion, right? Marduk is a real champion, and they would not question that. What they would question is the wisdom of Marduk, right? They would question the wisdom of Marduk because to them, they have a completely different way of handling toxic people than this, in your face, righteous way. And if you look at the end of the first book of the Divine Pymander, Hermes is basically saying that if you reveal wisdom to everyone, then I'm trying to remember the words he used. I think he used the word wicked. I don't know, but the wicked people would get even more wicked. They would get even more violent and brutal. And so, if we want to look at the text of, or if we want to look at the character of Inanna, or no, not Inanna. Ereshkigal and Tiamat. Yeah, if we want to look at the characters of Ereshkigal and Tiamat, then we're going to say that, these are toxic people. Um, shit. Yeah, no, they are toxic characters. Um, and so okay, I caught my train of thought again. If you so Hermes Trismegistus would say that the wicked would get more violent. If we look at Ereshkigal, I believe that the writer of the Descent of Inanna would agree, but he would put it in the terms of the toxic person getting more toxic. Different terminology, I think, but different imagery, but same concepts. If you reveal wisdom to everyone, then the toxic people will become more toxic. And for like this is about like think about the spells that are being talked about in this Enuma Elish. You could say that the spells are going to get more powerful, right? The magic of the poser is going to get deeper and harder to detect. And again, we like in here that talks about the plotting, right? It's like toxic people are just constantly plotting. I mean, right? And they ambush as well. And you know, most of the times they're not allowed to kill, but I mean, if they could kill you, they would without, uh, without hesitation. Um, uh, but that's what they're doing. They want to destroy other people, uh, rather than either respect them or want to build them up. But so as far as human behavior is concerned, I think all of these writers would be in agreement. It's just the approach of the Sumerians and of Hermes and of Moses is completely different than the approach that this writer's taking. Right, because this writer is openly righteous. Right, this is the hero Marduk who is openly righteous. So this is different, right? And I mean, maybe we can look at these civilizations. It's like Egypt and Sumeria lasted for thousands of years, while Akkad uh, and Babylonia only lasted for hundreds, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but only lasted for hundreds. I don't really consider the later Babylonian periods to be of much consequence because they basically just gained self autonomy rather than real empire, maybe. I don't know. I'm not an expert though. But I mean, one could argue that the Sumerians lasted a lot longer, and and it would make sense that a Babylonian Akkadian civilization with this, right? I mean, because I mean this is the hidden driving force in civilization, and so this is going to be creating people, right? It's going to be programming them. It's going to be creating them. And so, what does this create? It creates Marduk, right? So, a text like this, it makes sense. A text like this is going to create your Hammurabis, right? Because if you listen to Hammurabi, he is the Marduk going around the world righteously, hey, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, and he's righteously fighting for justice. Um, And, I think, if we want to put this in modern terminology, I think Hermes and the writer of the Descent of Inanna would agree with the analogy of winning battles. It's like, yeah, no, the righteous people can win their battles, but they ultimately end up losing the war, right? Because the ambushes of the wicked will be more devastating, right? Which would tie into Hermes, them getting more violent. Because if when they ambush you, they have to turn this one against you, turn that one against you, turn this one. When they ambush you, it has to be a devastating victory for them. And uh, and in a society like this, when it goes bad, the wicked people will put on a good face, just like in Rome. Same thing happened in Rome. The so-called defenders of the old republic were actually those who were fighting for corruption. Cicero was corrupt, and he was fighting for corruption. His famous denunciation of what's his face was basically just jealousy because he wants to be the one who's making decisions in the smoky back room. But he puts on a virtuous face, right? So I mean, oh my goodness, it's like Hermes is being proven right here, I think, because yeah, no, the Marduks can win their battles, but they're going to end up losing the war, right? So this is very interesting. Um, but we're doing this text here, and this is the text of a man who believes in open face righteousness. Hermes, I think, would call them naive and not wise. Um, Now, I want to get into my theory of this text. Could be wrong, but my theory of this text is that it was written for the family, right? So a lot of these lines are going to dazzle children, right? They're going to dazzle children. Um, and I think it was written with the intention to let the audience generally know what is going on. So the adults are going to know what's going on, right? And they're going to be able to, have their haha laughs that their children don't understand. Because yeah, no, I still agree with my statement from yesterday that make battle, avenge them. That's a very dramatic sentence, but it's not really an esoteric sentence. Maybe, I don't know. Well, no, I mean there's meaning in the avenge stuff. So break the immovable yoke that we may sleep. Um, I mean sometimes there might be an esoteric line, but then it's followed with redundancy or something. I don't know. Um, Fiercely plotting, unresting by day or night, right? That's the description of a of a toxic person, right? And so, Tiamat and Ereshkigal both throw tantrums, right? But in here, it's like the audience can really see, I think, this behavior of Tiamat as pathetic. While with the Ereshkigal, you can mask a tantrum, but with righteousness, right? Because if you think about a murderer, right, the whole community is now going to be righteous against this murderer. Um, and so they can have this anger that looks like a tantrum, can they not? So a writer can kind of mask a tantrum. But here he kind of doesn't do it. It's like the audience, I think the adults would see it. It's not very well hidden. Um, so I think I mean, and this idea, like at the end of the book, Tiamat is turned into the night sky, right? So this is filling a child with wonder, is it not? Right, because now a child looks up at the night sky and is filled with wonder. So and then at the end of the text, if we want to get more into the nature of this writer, we see the praise of all of these different bureaucrats, right? And this is simply just propaganda by this writer to sanctify bureaucracy, right? Because bureaucracy is not natural. But if your heavens have a bureaucracy, then your earth should have a bureaucracy as well, right? So, I mean, you could see a man's outlook on life and how he sees the heavens, right? So, however he sees the heavens is how he's going to see the earth. And so, in the heavens, they have bureaucrats. So they should have bureaucrats on earth. So this is propaganda. This is not pious religious stuff that is happening at the end of the text. And so, I mean, we can really see kind of a puritanical man here, right? I wouldn't call him a dumb puritanical man. I think he understands human nature a lot. Uh, and um, I think he does deserve a lot of praise for a lot of his insight with all this innocency stuff. And okay, let's. One thing I also want to get into is it was also shocking to me to be reading this and see the praise of Marduk, right? Because Marduk, I mean, Anu is the warrior and the hero, but he is being made fun of. Right now, why is he being made fun of? He's being made fun of because this idea that a man with big muscles, a man with big muscles, will melt before the grace or ferocity of a woman. Right? I mean, in this text, like this whole idea that, oh, Tiamat, she is just a woman, and men at the end of the day are more powerful than women, right? Like that's a joke. And the joke is that no, that's not true. The joke is that women are more powerful than men, and this gets into the battle of the sexes thing, right? Because um, the the Akkadian women would be very pleased with this text, I think, because it is very respectful towards female power. Because again, female power is in that subtlety, and there is subtlety in this text. This man is not, I call him a Puritan, but that we shouldn't see him like that because this man is not an idiot. Um, but like Moses, he obviously hid information in the text. Oh, okay. So I mean that's a part of the joke, right? So the part of, but you have to consider the ramifications of this joke, right? Because the ramifications of this joke and the ramifications added to that of Marduk as the man to be. And who is Marduk? Marduk is the scribe. He's the wise man. Um, it was shocking to me. It was like, oh my goodness. It's like, yeah, no, I see the joke. I see what he's trying to do with all this stuff. But at the end of the day, this is about creation, and these stories create men. And so, what, what kind of men is this going to create? I mean, ideally, it's going to create wise men, right? But at, I mean, we're talking about uh, sociology and human nature. And when a society like this gets corrupted, what are you going to have? You're going to end up having, a bunch of pretentious false wise men who get to the top, and it's going to go bad. And why is it going to go bad? Because in this text, the soldier and the warrior is being made fun of, right? In the text, in the Ninurta text, the warrior is being praised, right? I think like the Greek poets strike that balance, right? The Greek poets are able to praise the warrior, but hint, hint, the warrior's an idiot, and they're really praising Odysseus. Um, and so the Greek poets are able to create soldiers and wise men, right? But a text like this is going to create a bunch of effeminate, pretentious idiots at the end of the day. And so it would make sense that Babylon would fall if, a bunch of pretentious, overly confident scribes are faced with a bunch of warlike Assyrians, right? um, and so, yeah, no, this is very interesting to me. Oh my goodness! But I think that about does it with this text. Baal is, I think, one of the names of Marduk. Um, yeah, no, this because I mean, all of these ancient stuff is always was always interesting to me because I do think there is some hidden stuff going on, and I take a more rationalistic approach to a lot of this stuff rather than superstitious or bad, pretentious intellectual BS. Um, and I'm really, I think, starting to see a difference between these two writers, right? And it looks like the results are the results predicted by Hermes, right? Um, I mean, I think I'll just end it with I think in the Torah it says, don't give swirl to or don't give what pearls to swine or something like that. But you know what? We'll end it with this. This also gets into my secret stuff. Go see the secret video that I made. I'm washing my hands of all this stuff, right? Because that's this approach that this Marduk guy's taking is the same thing that I'm doing right now. Um, I'm taking this approach of Marduk, but I'm not taking it. I'm being ordered by the gods to divulge some of this information. And to me, divulging this information is going to help me out at the end of the day because I don't understand all of this stuff. But if I had to rate this guy, I'd give him a high rating. I would. But I think he really wanted to make his people strong, right? So he's not. I don't think there's malice in this guy. Um, I mean, it was a man like this who created Hammurabi, right? But it's also this very same man who also created their destruction later on, without his knowing. This was he knew not what he did, I guess.